This is a reminder if you're a woman and you're ever trying to sell anything, pretend like you're a man. I'm going to share my experience with you in just a second. Before I do, look, look at this. Look at that horse. There's a pony somewhere over there. I will probably show it to you in the comments song. If you don't know what that is, stay till the end. Anyway, the reason I wanted to tell you about this is because there's a dog behind me. This little experiment that I did changed my life. And I don't think I've told this story in a while, or maybe I have. If you heard it, whatever, scroll. But I sometimes I think if you put numbers to things, it really, it's more mind-blowing. So he's just living his best life. There's another one here. I'm surrounded by dogs and horses right now. We're feeding animals right now. It's part of my new random life here. Anyway, before I left the U.S., I got rid of everything, and including my truck. And if you know anything about trucks, or hold on, let me put this closer. Anything about like the value of trucks. Toyota Tacomas, in my opinion, and the opinion of many people, are the best truck out there. And particularly the 95, 96 engine. Don't know why, but I believe there are videos on YouTube of like people trying to destroy that engine. The hundreds of thousands of miles on these engines, and it's like basically the engine that won't die. Like the Toyota Tacoma 95 especially is like one of the best models they've ever made. And it's not really a good business model to make an engine that good. So not saying they don't still make good trucks, but that year, there's a window where they made the best. So watching that horse. This was like my dream truck. I loved it. I had it forever. I took a loan out, and I was living in this truck. This was like my first home, basically. I'll show pictures. Hold on. This right here, I had like a little Yakima rack on the top. I had 31-inch tires. I had my New Mexico plates that it was a hard time giving them up. I slept on this little bed. It's a one-person bed. I'm so glad I made that decision to decenter men in the home design of my, a lot of people have the double, and I was like, yeah, I don't see myself sharing this with anybody. I don't even want to be tempted to live in this with someone else. It's a single bed. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry, I did wear Crocs, but they're comfortable in the outdoors. Anyway, I think I paid like $7,000 for this truck when I bought it, which was a really good deal. But the dude was a climber, and he wanted to sell it to another climber. And I took such good care of that truck. It's like, it's probably the most valuable thing I've ever owned. It is. It's the most valuable thing because, computer and my phone. No, yeah. Well, thank God this phone doesn't cost $7,000. Anyway, so it was I really struggled to give up my truck. But moving to Europe, I'm like, well, definitely not going to bring a car over here. The cost alone of bringing a car is crazy, but I don't need a car here. Definitely not a truck here. Gas is 4 times as expensive, or something, like maybe not 4, but it's crazy. It just doesn't make sense. They have the infrastructure to not need a car unless if you're in a city. So saying goodbye to my truck was like really difficult because it was a part of my identity of like, I lived in my truck. I'm a tough girl. And I'm very proud of that era of my life because I was constantly challenging myself. I learned all these skill sets. I also was, running from trauma and all these other things. There's like, like good and bad things or whatever. Lots of things that motivated me to live in my truck. Some of it was adventure. Some of it was necessity because you don't get paid hardly anything to do those jobs and you have to follow the work. So you live the nomadic lifestyle. And part of it was also just my relationship to home and constantly wanting to be on the move and living. I am a flight risk. I'm not anymore, but I was a flight risk. Anything happens, I can just roll out of town. I literally have a car, a home on wheels. And also, what I realized is that not only was I like kind of done with that era of my life, because my abusive ex had infiltrated every area of my life and left nothing but trauma in less than a year that I was with him. One of the things also associated with him now, after having this long relationship with my body, my home, and my truck, that's me, things in my truck reminded me of him, including the door handle. Every single time I opened the door to get into my truck, the driver's side door, I thought of him because he replaced the door handle. And I was like, man, I wish I hadn't let him do that, because now I think of him every single time I get in my truck. So little things like that. And I realized how much that was bothering me. And also I was starting a whole new life in the other side of the ocean. I just didn't need any, I sold everything. I moved to Europe with 2 suitcases and moved to a town I'd never been to before to start a job. I didn't know what I was doing. I was going to be teaching English, but in Spain. Anyway, this story doesn't have to be this long, but I thought I'd just give you some more interesting details. So it was a really, really difficult decision for me to sell my truck, but it was either sell my truck and say goodbye to this chapter, which is also saying goodbye to my culture, my language, my family, my friends, my communities I've built, everything, but especially in my attachment to material. It's not about the items themselves, but the memories, the identity, and all the things tied to that, right? And so if I'm going to sell my truck, I know it's valuable. I even had replaced the engine at one point because I let some idiot, when I was working in the film industry in New York and my truck broke down, I let some idiot mechanic I didn't know work on it, and he fixed the radiator and he did it wrong. And so basically my engine blew up in New Mexico a few months later because radiators cause that to happen. Anyway, so it was like the 96 new engine and like a new, with only, anyway, whatever, y'all need all these details. But I looked into it and I knew this truck was still valuable. And I had a feeling that I could get at least $5,000 for it. Even though I'd had it for 10 years, no, 13 years. I knew I could get a lot for it because it's like, the Toyota Tacoma 95, right? And the new trucks are so big, they're like enormous, and this is like a petite little truck, like powerful, big old tires, right? So, to get screwed selling anything would upset me, but especially something that was my home, and it was just so much was attached to this. There's a lot of emotional investment into this truck, a lot of history with this truck. Just like someone selling their home. It's, the home has a whole history. And so I put an ad on Facebook Marketplace or whatever. Don't ever do that. If you're a woman selling something that men might want to buy, do not ever put it on Facebook Marketplace unless you create a fake profile with a big tough dude on it, because you'll get screwed. Because let me tell you what happened on that. All of the messages I got, there's only men who wanted my truck, and I knew it would be mostly men who would be into buying my truck. Not only they're just condescending messages, and just their attitude, but they were insulted that I asked for as much as I did. That I had the audacity, which is so funny. If there's anything that white men especially have, it is audacity, especially the men in the outdoors, talking to a woman that they don't think is in the outdoors. Oh, you better believe they thought that I'm stupid and I don't know anything about trucks. And they're like, you're crazy for us. I'll give you 1,500 tops. You're crazy. You're not going to get more than 1,000 for that. And not only are they just don't insult me when you try to buy something that I'm offering. That's what they did. It's all of them. It made me so angry because I was like, this is valuable though. And I knew it's because they could see my profile photo and it's Melanie. And so they just think I'm dumb and whatever. Because they just, whatever. Their social conditioning, right? So then I was like, okay, I need to do an experiment. And of course I was going to put it on Craigslist anyway, but I was like, if I'm going to put it on Craigslist, but I'm going to be Mel. In my emails I sign Mel because it's a little bit vague about my gender. But in this Facebook thing, I was like, my name is Mel, and I wrote it like a man would. I wasn't like, hey, baby, I didn't put all that flowery language or jokes, or I didn't try to be funny. I was just boring, direct, to the point, boom, 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 Mel. Let me know if you were interested, Mel. Do you know that I had a bidding war going on? All the men who wrote to me all assumed that I was a man, all of them, because of the way I talked and because my name was Mel. And they are all like, hey bro, this truck looks good. They were way more respectful. But Let me tell you, do you know how much I got for that truck? I believe I got a 7,000 for it, or at least 6. I can't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure I got 7,000, because I remember thinking, oh my God, I drove this thing for 10 years for free? Like, not really. I know there's inflation, and I poured a lot of money into it, and I bought a new engine, which was thousands of dollars, whatever. But still, I was like, I knew it. I knew all these fuckers would want this. They all wanted it. They were kissing my butt, because they knew it's hard to find a 95 Toyota Tacoma with an engine like that and in that good of shape. It had a new clutch. It had all this stuff, right? And I ended up selling it to this dad who was like, he was so tall, I can't believe he even fit into it, because this was like definitely not like you'd want like an extended cab for someone this tall. But he was like heavy metal kind of guy, but wanted to get in the outdoors, and he had a son that he really wanted to go take, camping and stuff. And he was so respectful, but he was like, he was pleasantly surprised, but not in a like, oh, I'm going to screw you kind of way, but like, he was stoked when he found out Mel is like this bitch. I was like, hey, right? Because I can talk like the boys, I can hang like the boys, I can be a boy in every way possible, because I worked with them for so long in the outdoors. I know their language. I know how they operate better than they understand how they operate. But this guy was just cool. And, I was like so excited to do stuff with his son. And so I sold it to him, and I got what it was worth. And I was like, God damn, how much have I gotten screwed out of? How many times? Like, so you think that's just a truck. Think about pay rates, Like, think about like anything from like, and if I ever have, I don't have a garage sale, because I don't have a garage, I don't have a house. But if I have like a sidewalk sale or anything, anytime I sell anything from here on out, it is going to be I'm gonna put a man in there. Now that I have Anthony in my life, I have him lend me his privilege in any way possible if necessary, right? Like, I take the lesson. I remember, I don't know, several years ago, there was a man and a woman at a company. I forget what this was. I think his story went viral, where they had the same job, and the way that she was like, she was like not good at she was good at her job, but she was not efficient at her job, and they couldn't figure out why her job, like her job was so much harder than his job. And then they did it. The male coworker went and read her email. I forget all the details. Y'all probably know what I'm talking about, but whatever. I'm just summarizing basically. When the male coworker looked at the way that the clients would talk to her and treat her and create all this extra labor, all this back and forth, all this unnecessary emotional labor, all this unnecessary negotiating, questioning, explain this to me, how they wouldn't even, wouldn't read the emails if they're from her. Like, all the ways, it was so eye-opening for me, because I was like, dang, I'm so glad that my name is Melanie and I can go by Mel, because they really do treat us differently if they know our gender. So I know that if they're doing that with gender, they're going to be doing that with race and everything else too, right? And it's like, man, I mean, and just like a little version of that is here in France, when I go to the immigration, you better, whenever I do the bank, anywhere official, I absolutely use Anthony's French last name on addition to mine, because the whole name thing is, you don't have to change your name here. Like, you don't have to in the US, but it's expected, and it's like, whatever. Here, women keep their last name always as a part of their documents, and then you can like add his name, but you don't have to. I should be like Melanie Hamlet, or like Melanie Hamlet plus his name. Like, and I can just drop it, take it or leave it whenever I want, whenever it's convenient for me, and I love that. So, but you are treated differently with your accent, with your name, and all that stuff. And in fact, one of my friends called the ambulance once. She's an immigrant here. She's from the U.S. She had like an appendicitis or something crazy happening, called the ambulance. They never came because of her accent wasn't French enough. The neighbor called for her, ambulance came, took her to the ER. So like, this kind of stuff is It's life-threatening. It's financially, in every way possible. It impacts everything. So if you gotta like fib a little bit when you're selling things, when you need an important call made or whatever, do it. Do it. If you don't have to be honest about your gender or your, if you're able-bodied or not, your sexual orientation or any of that stuff, if your race, if your ethnicity, if you don't have to tell them, don't. And if it's really important, change it. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but God, $1,000 versus $7,000 just because I was Mel, not Melanie. Think about those numbers. Anyway, I don't know if this helped. Highly suggest trying it out. Maybe see if it helps. Play within the system. Whatever. You got to pay your bills somehow. Anyway, let me know if you like this. Look at you. What are you doing now? Join my Patreon if you want more like travel content, stuff like that. I got my live coming up with Cecilia Regina this coming Wednesday. Today's August 1st. That's August 7th, I think. Wednesday, August 7th, and that one's kind of early. It's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I'm going to post about like the more details. So join the Patreon if you want to be there. I'll post. I have somebody who's going to help me with editing. I'm going to edit the lives to a more like, an hour later on for everybody. But if you want to be there live, join the Patreon. And join the Patreon just to get notified when I release stuff, in case the algorithm doesn't tell you what I'm doing ever again and you forget I exist. Anyway, thanks for listening. Let me know if you heard the comment song, because I'm gonna do some videos of this stuff just for fun. Et voila! This is the comment song pony version. Also, Mose, look at this baby. He always looks so sad. The comment song of Mose at a farm. We're feeding some animals and putting some stuff on their things to keep the flies out. This is the frog dog Mose. Look at the turkey legs. Oh my God. Look at Anthony putting that stuff on the horse's head. So look at the pony, the tiny pony. The comment song with the pony. Look at the pony. Oh, look at the cute pony. He's got the fly thing on his face because apparently they won't leave him alone. We are helping take care of these little pony and the horse. The pony and Mose are the same size. Except the pony weighs a little bit more, I think, but they literally are the same height. Anyway, the comment song, Tiny Pony Edition. I hope you liked it. I hope you now write a comment. Et voilà.